Howdy, for this video I was going to showcase how to set up kind of like a home. So for this one, like I'm building my Waterdeep campaign, and so one of the things to get at the very beginning is the Trollskull Manor, which is just a completely ruined house. It was basically like old abandoned tavern that is just trashed, and so you may you may have to, you know, convince your party to fix it up if they want to, or you can offer things for them to repair it if not. Like ours currently doesn't really care. They're just pretty much just living in it. It's just a place to stay for free. But so I added a map that I got from I think it's Phoenix Cartography. I'll post a link in the description of so if you want to check it out. They have a great supply of maps for the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. Pretty much I'm gonna edit pretty much almost every one of those maps to go for this campaign. But once I have them in my little block and I have them click on the house, it'll take them to the manor. So when they're at the manor, um, I've already pretty much went through it. Let me reset the fog of war on it real quick. I went through and I customized all the light fixtures and did all of the. I've already done all of the floors for to go through like the multi-level. The only one I have not done yet was the cellar, which I was going to leave that one as like kind of a showcase to show how to do it. Um, so I clearly labeled each area of the map, and then the way that you get to the second floor is actually behind the house. So I just created like a small little path outside. I just drew around the house, and then I just made like a small little path that connected up to the second floor, just to make it a little bit more, you know, user friendly and not bog your screen down too much with stuff. So, and then once they get up to the second staircase, then they can go up and teleport to the second floor. Um, I've already done all of the light fixtures, like all the dangling chandeliers and stuff, but I have not done all of the fireplaces because that's if they want to actually use the fireplaces or not. But I at least have done, all of the major fixtures, and I customized all the windows. I did the balconies. The way I do the balconies is typically I'll use the terrain walls, the green ones, little looks like a little mountaintop. I use that for railings, so you can at least see past them, and then just regular walls for just like the columns. And I did that all the way around. The windows are the blue one, which I use the invisible walls for windows. Uh, but I mean, it gives a good effect that they can't go past it, but they can still see off of it like how you can with the balcony. Creates a nice little effect. And then I usually just do the invisibles for the windows. And then so when they get up to the second floor and then they go up to the third floor, and then I usually label, to go back down, will be, third floor, second floor, whichever one to clearly label which way is which. When on the third floor, they actually have access to the attic, which is back here. Which the attic's just a small little tiny attic space. We actually had one player that actually wanted to stay in the attic, so I'll actually incorporate it. And then these are just, I guess, would be bathrooms and stuff, which I'm gonna add assets later on for if they ever decide they want to renovate the place to add, extra things for it to make it a little bit more livable looking. And then you have just up to the fourth floor and down there like that. And then typically what I'll do for lights is I will usually create one specific light and I'll create it to the space and specifications that I like. As like an example is so I'll do say like I'll find this one light source, and so like I did on the first floor as my first example. Uh, Whoops, let me do put it back over. I'll drag it back over to the first floor just to show. Um, so what I'll typically do, I think I picked this first light right here, and once I designed it, um, I made it to all the specifications. I made it to the color that I liked, color sensitivity or color intensity. I usually don't like them too intense. I usually kind of like dial it back. It defaults to 7, but I usually think that's just a little too much. And then I lowered the speed. The speed defaults to 5. I lowered it down to 4 and set it all to torch. And then I have the darkness threshold set to 2. And then so when it goes nighttime mode and turns on, they're not too crazy. But what I'll do, especially with things like fireplaces and things like that. I'll usually draw out a particular shape. So I'll cut out, the walls of where the concrete are, so that way when I do put a light source there, you'll see how it kind of reflects off it. So what I'll usually do is, like, once I find a light source and I'm comfortable with it and I like it, I'll usually click copy. It'll even say copy data for an ambient light, and then I can just paste it to wherever I want it. And you can actually, a nice little cool tip, if you hold shift while you're doing a light, it will actually, you can kind of fine tune and put it exactly where you want. So that's what I was doing with like when I was putting the light fixtures, they would like kind of shift off to the side and it wouldn't really go where I want it to. But if you hold shift while you're placing the light, you can pinpoint it and put it exactly where you want it, which is really really nice, especially if you're really trying to fine tune a light or exactly where you want it, and then get it right on the spot that you're looking for. You can create a nice good little effect. I had like a little stove down here, and then you can also if you want your lights to be a specific area, you can do like the emission angle. So it's always going to default to 360, but say if you wanted to do like 180 and you only wanted like half the light out, you can take the light, and I'm trying to, you can rotate it. Like you can just hold shift and you can rotate it. Same thing with like control. You can fine tune it if you want to do like really really precise, if you're looking for a very specific thing. And then you can cut the light off so that it only does exactly where you want it to do. Same thing with like this one right here. If I only wanted it to be half that, you just cut it in half, and then you can get it exactly where you want it, and then it'll only create the effect of right there coming off there. And then so like this one, I could probably even cut a little bit more, and instead of doing 180, probably do like 120, and yeah, that's a little better. Probably almost need to go just a little bit more, but see, this is a fine one where you can, if you hold shift, and you can really fine tune where you want it. You want it dead center, right there in the center of the fireplace, and you can really create like a really nice effect with lights. Yeah, I'll probably need to go a little bit more than 120 on that one. But so for, the showcase for like the cellar, so I already preset the cellar up to link both the first floor and the cellar. So in your writing tools, I made a square. I had just a generic multi-use set that I did for saying one, so I usually keep the font and everything the same unless I'm needing to like make the text just a little bit smaller depending on whatever it is I'm going for. So I'm using this in a multi-level, but this is the only one on the map that I actually have set to activate via map note, only just because since I don't want them to walk through the cellar and accidentally teleport down to the cellar unless they specifically say I want to go down there, then I feel like that would be a good one to create an actual teleport point for. So I would just go, I've been creating my little points and just create a new entry, and then we just do cellar, create an entry, close, and then I would just add a little token right here, and I usually make these as small as I can, which is 32. Font size I'm just going to do 24. Make it a book. Let's do a cave, and we'll do that down there, and then so that way when they go to it, and she actually has dark vision, so when she goes down there, she'll actually be able to see a little bit. So, and then I did the bars. I did I just did the invisible walls. Whenever I want to create an obstacle, but it's something that's not going to impede vision completely, then I'll do something like this. So like this one, I could probably do terrain walls because I'm assuming this fireplace is probably going to be pretty tall. But the way it's designed, it looks like it could probably, you could see over it. So I just did an invisible wall just so you could see over it. Same thing with like the bar areas and like all the big objects that are on the ground, like the table, the flipped over table, the other flipped over tables. All those I just did just a solid line just to impede your path just enough that they could kind of get close to it, but it still prevents them from walking completely past it. Same thing with the little cooking stove right here. Those are just little racks and stuff. I covered those up as well, just to kind of really create an effect of like, okay, I can't really get past this table because there's obviously a table flipped over, so it just creates that just nice little extra little touch. So, and then now when she goes down to the cellar, she can go down and kind of do anything she needs to. We actually have a player down here that's being kind of going through withdrawal symptoms right now that's currently in the cellar, so we actually use the cellar a lot. And this character in particular likes to go down and torture the poor guy down there that's getting messed with. I'm probably going to increase my scale size because as I'm looking down here in this level, I'm noticing that my blocks and my character don't seem to line up very well. I have it set to 75 right now, and I'm probably going to double it. And I'm that way because she seems like she's very small for this map, so I'm probably going to bump it up just to make it feel a little bit more solid. Another thing is too, so especially if like you're going to pre-place tokens, same thing with like shift is like just the magical button for this video. So like if you say you wanted her to sit on this chair specifically, if you try to just drag her onto the chair, she's not going to sit on it. But if you hold shift and drag her onto it, as soon as I can actually grab her, come on, make sure I'm in the right mode. All right, and then you hold shift, and then she'll actually sit on the chair. This is great for especially like I have a couple maps where the shops have very specific chairs, and they're in like weird angles, and so I want usually the shopkeeper to be sitting at the chair or the desk that they're sitting at, and that's a good way to be able to set that up. So like I have I think it was the bent nail one in particular where they have a very very set seat down here in the corner, and I wanted them to be dead on it. That way to really kind of sell, this is where they sit, and they're at their desk, and really kind of creates that good flow and makes everything look right. But yeah, I'm probably gonna double my scale of my grid because this grid is just a teeny bit too small. Which you can do that. You go through configure settings, and then so my grid's currently set to 75. But if you really want to test it, which I mean that doesn't look bad. I mean my grid's right. Everything looks good, but just my characters feel teeny tiny on this grid. That's just the only thing. They just don't. I mean, it's everything's lined up right and everything looks right. All the lines are good, but man, it just feels a little off. But I don't know. Might leave it. I haven't decided. But that should just about do it for this video. Just a simple kind of overview of some like things you can do for like building a house and the way you can do simple things to kind of shortcut it for yourself. Unfortunately, there's no real fast way to build walls. It's just kind of time consuming. I usually do like balconies and things like that. I'll do anything like that. I always just use the terrain walls. I usually just use solid walls for any kind of any major fixture. I usually will draw a grid around whatever objects, that way they're not staring out into space too much, especially when you do build maps and everything and you build windows. I usually try to make them as realistic as possible, but also don't want them staring out completely into space. Also, you got to be careful too when you build a map too specific. It can kind of make it harder to process. So like this one, I went really crazy with some of the angles at first, and then eventually I was like, okay, I'm just going to make them a little bit more rounded because it can actually make your game and the map struggle to load when they get a little too precise, because it's a little harder for it to process. So if you got people that are running on like on laptops or something, or like a slower older computer, they might have issues sometimes loading bigger maps. But especially when you do create the windows and you do all the walls and everything right, you can usually get some really cool effects. Like you can have like this nice little window effect of it coming out from all the little windows with the lights at nighttime. I like the way some of the things look. It just creates like a nice little extra touch. Things that like I'm very happy about that I'm switching to from Fantasy Grounds, because I can actually design maps like this and can create some really cool effects and really get my players immersed into the world a little bit better. But that's just about it. And then I always link my maps to go back out to the main map, this Troll Skull Alley map, just because I just think it's just the most efficient way for them to be able to kind of go back and forth between maps. Just that way it saves me a little bit of time and effort, because that was I hated dragging things over from Fantasy Grounds. And this is the only building on the entire map I'm probably going to leave not completely cut up or hidden from line of sight, because I really like the look of them knowing, okay, this is exactly where I live. I can't miss it on this map, opposed to some of the other ones where it's just a shop, where I have it just so they can only really see just the entrance points to the shop, to see how they can enter it. I think it just kind of shows, all right, this is my stake of land, and I know pretty much what my area looks like. But that'll do it for this video. If you need anything, just let me know. If you have any questions, just shoot me a comment, and I'll try to explain as best I can. All right, have a good day.